Hey guys, Jay from RS Garage. Today we're going to walk you through the steps of cylinder wall prep as you assemble your new engine. With this engine block back from the machine shop, it's time to do my final measuring, cylinder wall prep, ring filing, final wash, and then it's on to assembly. Part of the cylinder wall prep is making sure that the bores don't have any sharp edges at the bottom of the bore or the top of the bore, and then cleaning out the crosshatch to make sure it's free of debris and particulate. Any engine that has the piston passing down out of the cylinder at bottom dead center is a real good opportunity to make sure that that cylinder is properly deburred. This is not an intense job. It's easy work. You're going to take some 1000 grit sandpaper, work the bottom edge of the bore, maybe grab some 2000 grit after that and just make sure that it's really slick, and then you can move on to the next step. This particular engine is headed into life with a stroker kit, so we've got a CNC notch at the bottom of the bore to allow rod clearance, and then you've got the remainder of the bore that's been bored and honed, and if you take your fingertip and run it on this edge, you can feel it's pretty sharp. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take some sandpaper and work that edge down. Not a lot of pressure. Let the paper do the work. Maybe spend 10 or 15 seconds working that side of the bore, and then give it a check. Noticeably smoother with very little effort. You want to remove the minimum amount of material it takes to just roll that edge over. When it comes into the notch, if you're dealing with an engine that's been stroker notched, it's the same thing. You're just trying to take the edge off. I do recommend doing this by hand. It'll take less than an hour to do all of the bottom of the cylinders. It's not very intense work, and if you use a machine, you're more likely to remove more material than needed. Your finger will work extremely well at just helping create a nice gentle radius at the bottom of the cylinder. With the first pass with the 1000 grit sandpaper completed, I'll use some 2000 grit sandpaper and really polish a nice little radius down in the bottom of the bore and move to the next step. With the bottoms of the cylinders dressed, it's time to take a look at the tops of the cylinders. Now, the machine shop has done their part in boring and honing the block, and it's also likely that they took a tapered piece of stone or sandpaper or a CNC machine and put a small chamfer at the tops of the bores. The OEM chamfer is quite generous and it makes for loading the OEM rings in very easy, but most performance engines use as small of a chamfer as possible at the top of the bore. So we just want to dress that with a piece of sandpaper. That'll keep you from damaging your rings as you install them, and it'll also keep from cutting your hands up as you're cleaning the bores. Now, before you guys start feeling some kind of way about taking sandpaper to the bore, keep in mind that when you look at your piston, the top ring land is about 1/4 inch down. So we're not going anywhere near there in the bore. We're going to be working up the very top of the piston, the very top of the cylinder. So we take our sandpaper and we're going to take a really small edge and turn it into a really small radius. Now, if the machine shop was doing this by hand and they had a stone on a drill and it was chattering around, they can make some work for you here, but this work is done really nicely and it doesn't take more than 30 or 40 seconds per cylinder to create a nice radius to load the rings on and not cut your hands on as you clean your bores. The next step is to take some automatic transmission fluid and a lint-free towel and start to wipe the bores out until the towel stays clean. So in our first pass, wipe around on the bore, and even though it looks pretty clean, you come up with particulate. So we are scrubbing all that out of the crosshatch in the cylinders. Now this block has not been final washed yet, so I'm going to do this twice. But in this pass, before I move to final wash, I'll get a lot of that debris out, get it good and clean. It's also a neat opportunity as the paper towel and your hands pass the bottom of the bore to feel that nice radius that you've installed. They may look like fine scratches to the naked eye, but when you look at the cylinder wall through a profilometer, you can see that it's a series of peaks and valleys, and down in the valleys, there's this stuff that we don't want present. We want to get it out of the engine before we move to the next step. It's a bit of a game of patience, but you should spend probably 2 to 3 minutes on each cylinder. Once the paper towel comes out clean, it's okay to go to the next step. From here, I'm going to file the rings. I file the rings before I put the crankshaft into the engine because as I'm filing the rings, it's another opportunity to introduce particulate down into the engine. So this is my first stage in cylinder cleaning, but I get the majority of the work done, and that way after the final wash, it'll just be a quick pass through and on to final assembly. Whether this is your first time or a seasoned hobbyist, following these steps will help you lead towards a successful engine build. I do recommend buying a size-specific ARP ring compressor. It'll make loading the pistons and rings into the cylinder a breeze without any risk of damaging a ring. So when you listen to me load pistons into a cylinder using one of these tools, it's nearly silent. That's because the rings are not catching on the cylinder as they exit the tool. It's a really nice fit, so something to keep in mind. Any of these components are available through RS Garage, so for shopping, please keep us in mind. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.